Hello, my name is William Phillips, and I'm a student teacher at Grand Canyon University, and this is my mock IEP. I will start off with first of all, the classroom setting environment will be very welcoming. And the demographic that I work in, parents will be getting off work late and coming to IEP, so I try to accommodate a lot of family things that may arise, whether it be food, child care, just whatnot. Hey, just having something for them to eat when they get there, or having another staff member help me out. Hey, can you watch so and so's son or so and so's daughter as an IEP? They can just put on. They do their homework or the homework's done. They can do some activities in a classroom or just hang out and relax. So that's very important. Cleanliness, making sure the classroom is clean when they get there and arrive, and also make sure that each participant in the IEP has their own copy of the IEP, even though they probably received many by them. But to make sure officially, as they enter a room, there'll be a copy on each desk, a pen, and a notepad to take notes throughout the meeting if things arrive that we can't address right then in time to make sure we stay on target for time. I then would introduce myself as hey, my name is Mr. Phillips. I'm so and so special educator. It's a pleasure to have this young man, young woman. And then I would ask everybody to go around the table and introduce themselves and their roles in their students in the IEP process. So that would happen. Then we go around. Then at that point in time, we start off saying, hey, we're all here to make sure that student A has the best education experience possible, and sometimes that might not be seeing eye to eye on every avenue. Just there's more than one way. There is more than one way to get somewhere, and being open to different thoughts is a must. And being clear and let us speaking and getting our thoughts out without being cut off is very, very important. Respect is very, very, very important in my book. I think if you maintain that, tough conversations that arise during IEP, they can be handled very professionally, and there's no love lost. At this time, I would then open the IEP and say this is a review or a annual IEP, and then it'll be a check mark, and then we'll make sure the parents know that which type of IEP this is. And at that moment, we then would I would say, hey, make sure we know the letter of contact you received this letter on this day, and a phone call. And they say these are all Washington State OSBI guidelines that we make sure that we contact the families at two different forms. So make sure that parents understand, hey, we contacted you. Then like, let's make sure everybody's on the same page. Then this will be the cover page. Will then we'll discuss the everybody that's an attendee to the IEP will be the administrator, the general education teacher, special education teacher, and also extended service teachers such as PE, library, music, or whatnot, and also any other staff member that may have a valued input on any situations students may be occurring throughout the day. It may be at lunch, it may be at recess. Those are those intricate parts that when people IEPs arise. If you are a person that is involved in the student's academic education, then you'll be on this list for on the IP list. The next one will be we will then talk about the considerations of why the strengths of students and concerns of the enhanced education. So this will be talking about why the students will receive services, their strengths and weaknesses. Also too about their if they need technology devices to better access academics, their English. And at this point, I would stop and ask parents before we move on to the present levels. Is there anything that we have missed or you're not unclear? Because sometimes that we can really talk in this IEP language, and parents don't know. They don't know. They feel lost, and sometimes they will sit there and not say anything because they feel like it's insulting that they don't know. So I would make sure to um, everybody's talking, you know, academic but language they can understand, and not move too far without asking for a recap. At this point, then we would go to present levels of education performance. I will list their performance at each level, their strengths, present levels, progress from previous goals, baseline for new goals, and then uh, I would before that I would go back and we talk about their test scores, what they scored in each category, and then we would go to the present levels, and we would talk about, um, for example, if I were to say the students' goal by last year goal by 6/22/2019, when given a level H reading book, student will read a book and answer comprehension questions about text, improving reading skills from 1 to 4 passing trials to 5 out of 5 passing trials, measured by FMP reading A to Z assessment. Student will read a book and answer comprehension questions about the text, improving reading skill from 1 to 4 opportunities to 5 to 5 opportunities, as measured by a teacher-based assessment. And that's a so then at that time, after we talked about their scores and then where they're at, this is the goals. This is the goal setting. Each goal we would go through, whether it be reading, writing, math, social, emotional behavior. But at this point in the IEP, we definitely will be taking our time and asking feedback from parents, because this is a very important part. These goals are very, very important. So I want to make sure to stay within the goals and um, make sure parents understand it before we move on. Now, if a parent were to arise at this point and there's pushback, well, they can't do this, they can't do that. Okay, I totally understand that. Then I would then show some like, well, this is stuff we worked on, and show them paperwork just of an assignment that we worked on, so parents can see where their their child is missing a step and kind of needs those type of services. So, versus just telling them that, sometimes you got to show like some academic work so parents can kind of grasp on that. And then this next part will be uh, the to accommodate um, each student's academic experience at school. Um, when they get assignments, maybe a student might need access to follow practice time to review their skills, um, or they need more books in the classroom so they can access it versus going to the library. Those books will be in a certain section for the student. A list of sight words at their desk. There's different accommodations that can better assist the student in the classroom when they're not receiving education services. So then we'll talk about how those are helpful and what those can be in the classroom for the student. That's in the accommodation. Also, too, for testing, that's very important. Is the testing piece, is having those accommodations in the IEP before testing. Oh, it's so important. Like things like print on demand, text to speech. Those things are very important. So if there's any question on that parents want to know about testing, how did my son or daughter get adequate testing? That is a very, very strong point to bring out, and I had to put that in the IP as well. And then the next part of the IP, we would then uh, make sure that all the accommodations are listed in the testing section here, such as the state assessment and the district wide assessment. We're to make sure that they are checked off in the box. They can be accommodated, but if they're not checked off in the box, then it doesn't qualify for testing. So we will double check that to make sure. And then after that, we then go down to the services, and each services will be described in your that it will be concurrent. It'll be the what service you'll be receiving, who will be providing the service, how many times a week, where the location is, and the start of the service and in the service, which is very, very crucial. And that is a legal binding document that tell parents that students must be in the class during these times. They must receive services at this time. That is your legal right. And that's something that I'm a big advocate for, especially in our urban communities, big time. And then the next part we will talk about, well, it shows the placement of the student in their academic classrooms and their special education classrooms. And after we talk about what we go through all go through all the data, we have our suggestions. And it comes to the part where notice where parents will then can accept the services, or they have the right to decline services. And that must be told to parents, to be fair and to be honest. Like if there's some things that they want to go back and say, you know what, I want to go check this out, they have that right. They have that right. And we can kind of give them guidance on that, but in the day, parents have that right, and we must make sure that they understand that. And after that, the IEP is then closed down. Then I ask for, are there any questions, concerns, and we will then review the IEP for anything that we might missed, things we want to add in, and we move on from there. And I would make sure that everybody at the IEP leaves on a happy note and a positive note. And once again, my name is William Phillips, and this was my mock IEP. Take care. God bless.